I'm Alan Thomas.
I'm Angie Thomas.
Hey, and we're Rethink Dieting. So today, what we wanted to cover, for those of you that haven't followed much of our story or know about it, back in 2017, Angie and I went on a very public weight loss journey where I had reached the level of morbid obesity at age 55. I weighed 304 pounds, 5'11", wasn't 8 feet tall. Angie had never struggled with the level of weight that I did, but she reached 188 pounds, and she's not 6'4". But she is 5'7". She's so we're average height people, and we let our weight get away from us. And what it spelled to me was an early death. That was at the end of the day. That's what it spelled. While I had no medical issues to speak of. Doctors were always amazed at how healthy I was to be that age, but deep in my mind, I knew that I was a walking time bomb. I was a dead man walking if I didn't fix it, and that led to what ended up being a 260-day journey for me and a 190-day journey for Angie. Angie dropped 63 pounds in 190 days. I dropped 129 pounds in 260 days. Never with the thought ever of coaching it. I mean, it was always, I had an insurance business. Some of our sons worked with us. It was never about that whatsoever. But funny things start to happen. When you lose that much weight, people start asking you how. And it always struck me that the how-to was never that complicated. I mean, how many of y'all have watched, have had somebody ask you, how much you really knew about weight loss? If you struggle with weight like I had for decades, my answer was, I could write a book on what to eat. I'm not a doctor, a nutritionist, dietitian, physical fitness expert. Are you?
Nope.
No, Angie's not either. Angie's not either. We're just normal people who had struggled, but I already knew what to eat. So it always bugged me, why people felt like this, that there's this exact diet, there's this magic pill. That was before the terzepatides and semaglutides that are out, and no shame anybody who's taking those. Here, you're doing something about it. We don't shame that. But here's the catch. At some level, you've got to get a hold of it. If you've had weight loss surgery, at some level, you have to personally get a hold of it, because it will not stop you from gaining in the future. And so what's interesting is, we started coaching people. We've had literally hundreds of people that we've helped. We've talked to thousands of people over the years. We started working with men and women, and our process got results. We never told people what to eat, refused to. Not because we didn't think it was important, not because they didn't have to change, but because of the fact that it was like the diet industry has stolen from me and from you and from Angie and from every person out there this belief that you had the power to do it within you. And so what we got really good at and have gotten really good at is tapping into that power in people, the power that already exists. And so when you're watching these videos from us, if you're looking for a special diet plan, you're not going to get it, because you already know what to eat and for you. And everybody's different. But at some level, it's a math equation. And so what we wanted to talk to you about today is, this journey we're on. So what happened to Alan and Angie? Okay, your weight loss coaches. Angie let her weight tick up just a little. She's still well within her BMI range of what was to be considered perfectly healthy. And I let mine tick up a lot more. Mine went up about 45 pounds. Actually went up about 55 pounds at one point, because life happened to me and Angie. We stopped doing what we teach. And so Angie has committed publicly to dropping 19 pounds in 109 days. I committed publicly to dropping 45 pounds in 109 days. Now, what's interesting is, the day we decided to do that was the day before Thanksgiving. And so we did that for a reason. Number one is because the time of year doesn't matter. You can do this anytime. It's kicking the ball down the road that we've done so often. and that most people do, and believing that tomorrow it's going to happen. So we're letting people take an insight. We post our skill every day, whether it's good reading or a bad reading, whether it makes us happy or sad. What doesn't matter. We post it every day because we want you to see our story. We want you to see that it's possible. Some of y'all will become clients. I know that. Angie knows that. But some of y'all we will never meet. But if we can instill in you the belief that it is possible, that is absolutely possible to do it anytime. Doesn't matter. People say, well, it's harder to lose weight when you're older. Yeah, maybe a couple of ounces a year different. I'm 64. Angie looks 29, but she's only a year behind me in age. I'm sorry, I told your age. And so we've been together 45 years, married for almost 40. And so your age, you can lose weight if you're old. You can lose weight if you're male. You can lose weight if you're female. You can lose weight if you can't walk. You can lose weight if you can walk. You can lose weight if you've got hormone issues. You can lose weight if you've got whatever. I promise you. Is it easy for each person? No, absolutely not. But it's possible. So people, when you're thinking about this, I want you to lock in that it's the mindset first, and to understand that willpower will never be enough for you. First of all, I want you to think about willpower is a limited resource. You'll have a little willpower. How many of y'all have had willpower early in the morning? By midnight, the willpower had all ended, or by that afternoon. We all have willpower to a certain level. That's a gift from God. I mean, it is. Stress is going to drain it. Emotions are going to drain it. Fatigue is going to drain it. That's why people say it's harder to lose weight when you're not sleeping. I know, biologically, it probably is to some degree. It's more the mindset piece of it. It is. And that's why willpower is always has to be a factor in there, but it will never, ever, ever be enough. And I want you to see, as we kind of walk into it, is that when you fail at some of this, when you fail at it, that it's not failure forever. It's failure in that moment. It's not a character flaw. It's not the system is broken. And so first thing I want you to think about is, what the real problem is. The root problem is that I made, and Angie to some degree. I mean, you speak up here, Angie. I mean, I'm the Angie. Everything goes through Angie, but she lets me do a lot of talking. Yeah. And so, but anyway, but food became the answer. I want you to think about it. So if I'm sad, the answer is maybe I should eat more. TV represents this. I mean, you go watch any TV show when the guy or the girl drops, has their heart broken, they go to the ice cream. I mean, it's just cliche almost. So if my heart's broken, I want to eat some more. If everything's going great and you want to celebrate something, what's the natural response? I'm going to eat some more. When you're stressed, what's the answer? Now, especially if you're Christians, Angie and I are born again believers. And so we say this: God loves you at 500 pounds or 1,000 pounds, but he did not intend for you to be in the body that was not taken care of. So stewardship of our body is our responsibility, and we have free will. So God loves you whatever you weigh, just like he loves the alcoholic, just like he loves the drug addict, just like he loves the drunk. He loves the adulterer. He loves every person that with every kind of sin imaginable. He loves you too if you're 500 pounds. He loved me at 304. He loved Angie at 188, just like he loves her now at her present weight. But at the end of the day, we're not called to do that. So we're not to turn to stress, turn to food as the answer. Comfort equals food. So if I'm a drug addict, when you go into, and I'm assuming this from watching a lot, Angie and I watch a lot of detective shows. So, and I know that's not all true, but there is some truth in it. When somebody has an alcohol struggle or a drug struggle, they're going to tend to turn to that for comfort. Exactly. And food equals comfort. So we choose food. When I do well, it's eat some more. The answer is eat some more. When I do poorly, eat some more. When I'm uncomfortable, eat some more. When I'm lonely, the answer is eat some more. When I'm ashamed of how much I weigh, the answer is eat some more. I mean, it's literally what we do. And you have to be judged by. We get judged by our behavior, not by the weight. It's the behavior of it. And I don't say judge from a spiritual standpoint. I say we judge ourselves. And so So food is not the problem. It's just not. Food is the coping mechanism as you go through this process. So Angie and I, what are we doing right now? So here we are. We're on day 24 of it. And what did you weigh this morning? 147?
147.6 or 0.8.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
so just 147. I weighed 214. So what does that mean? Angie's down basically 4 pounds. I'm basically down 6 pounds. But now there's a little something that came along the way in the middle of that, in the 24 days. Something came along called Thanksgiving. Well, we don't believe in cheat days. We believe in planned days, and we intentionally ate what we planned to. And when it was certainly not a weight loss day. And so, but we planned that. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, those are planned days. So we don't believe in cheat days with our clients. There is no cheating if you plan it. So, but also it's called, when you do it intentionally, it makes a huge difference. So understand that you have the free will to make the decision. God gave you the free will, the stewardship to handle that. So over the last several days, what's happened? We had a plan. We work on our plan, and I'm going to share some data with you. So when this process started, we do this with our clients, and I'm going to give you my data for time, not because Angie's is wrong. Angie's absolutely right. So I projected that by today I would weigh 210 pounds. Okay. That's where projected at. I weighed 214 this morning. It's 4 pounds different. That's not great. Well, it is. Maybe it isn't. Well, what actually happened along the way is something called the flu. The flu happened to me, so it took me out of exercise that I'd planned. Does it mean that I'm not getting to 175 pounds by March 15th? Heck no. It just means I'm adjusting my plan a little bit. Does it mean that any of that's not possible? Same with Angie. But so we're 10 pounds down the first 24 days. We're within striking distance. We will make it. And so what I want you to understand is that you can plan this stuff out as you go through it, but it's got to be worth it to you. And I wrote a post. Angie and I worked on a post together. That last week we went to a really large Christmas party. It's one we go to every year with a whole bunch of friends, a whole bunch of people that act crazy and have fun. And we're there to have fun too. And I looked around, and now I'm more subject to this, probably more prone to this than Angie. Angie didn't make it to 300 pounds like I did. But I made it easier because I was 300 pounds. It made it easier for her to be 188 pounds. Okay. So what happened was during those times when you go into the lion's den, so to speak, I've made a decision that I'm what I'm gonna eat, what I'm gonna not eat. But I walk into this place, and there's all the goodies you can name. There's all the sweets, there's all the savory, there's all the spicy, there's all everything that I love to eat. And so my decision, and this is one of the things that's funny. My decision before going in was I was going to have Diet Coke. Now, Diet Coke, don't send me an email, tell me how bad it is for me. I don't drink it all the time, but I had that. I drank Diet Coke. I had 3 Diet Cokes. Okay, that's what I had. Now, I'm not saying it because I'm great. I made the decision beforehand. The decision, it trumped the willpower. The willpower would not have worked without the decision. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Yes. I feel like I'm talking in circles.
Yes, you decided, and you lived up to your promise to yourself.
And nobody stopped me and beat me over the head.
No one noticed. Our friends at our table, they really didn't notice. They were worried about what was on their plate.
Yeah, they couldn't care less. It was no big deal. But I want to say to y'all, it's like we had somebody write us a few months ago that said that they were, I can't remember, they were living in an assisted living facility. They were not mobile. They could not walk because of a stroke, I believe it was, and they really believed that there was no way for them to lose weight, and I just believe there's always one of our coaches, one of our favorite coaches ever, Mark Van Musser. He had a saying called "There's always a way for the committed, and there's always an excuse for those who are not." Now, he's not a weight loss coach, okay. But it applies here. And so this particular individual said in their message to us that they had all their meals prepared, so there's no way for them to make choices. Okay, now let's think about this. Just step away from it. First of all, that belief is where the problem is. They're wrong. Okay, there is a way. So what do you do to start with? It's just like I went back. Sean Wiggins, who dropped about 180, 190 pounds with us years ago. Sean was a client in the early days of Rethink Dieting when I just worked with men. It was before Angie came alongside me and started helping ladies. And Sean said, you tell me you're not going to tell me what to eat, but I've hired you as a coach. What am I supposed to eat? And I said, well, if your wife and 2 daughters were held hostage and the only way to get them back alive was to lose a pound a week of that 200 pounds you need to lose, what would you do to save their life? And by the way, you can't ask your doctor, you can't ask your nutritionist, dietitian, physical fitness expert, you can't ask anybody what to eat, you can't even Google it, or you'll never see them again alive. Could you save their life? And he thought for a minute. I said, well, and if so, what would you do? And he said, I've got it, Alan. I know the answer. I'll eat less. Boom, there it is. Well, that was the start of him dropping almost 200 pounds. There's always a way. And so to that lady, if you happen to be listening, I don't know if she is, you can eat less. Choose to eat half of your meal. Choose to eat 2/3 of your meal. Don't starve yourself. There is no, listen, we tell our clients, we had a client come to us a few years ago who dropped 30 pounds with us. He said, in one of our early coaching calls, she says, well, I'm hungry all the time. I said, well, eat something. And she said, well, I can eat. I said, of course, don't starve yourself. I said, that's not what this is about. Don't try, you can run a marathon if you want to, but that's not what it's about. This is about taking charge and realize you've got the power. And when you realize you've got the power, then the willpower starts to be less necessary. The decision, it was made ahead of time. The willpower was one of the mechanisms, but when it fails, the decision and already knowing what to do makes it, because listen, perfect love will always win over it. And so this is another thing I want to talk about in just a minute, but I want you to understand the return on investment too. And I know this is a little out of context, but this is what happened to me that night at that party. And granted, men statistically with extra weight, overweight, obese, or morbidly obese will have their life shortened statistically as much as 20 years. Women will have their life shortened as much as 5 years. Now, I'm not God. Angie's not God. I do everything she says, but Angie's not God, and I do. And so, but at the end of the day, we don't know when we're gonna leave this earth. However, it's like playing in traffic. If I go out to I-95, 6-lane, 8-lane highway and run back and forth and back and forth and back and forth across the highway, and then I get hit by a car and I get to heaven, and God says, and I said to God, why did you take me off earth so early? And he said, well, you're playing in traffic. Use that free will I gave you to use some sense. That's what this overeating is like. So I just did a calculation, an extra 500 calories. Now I promise you, if I'd let go in there, I would have had an extra probably 3,000 to 5,000 calories. Okay. And you can argue whether calories matter. That's not what but I just did the basis on caloric content. That's 500 extra calories would mean 1/7 of a pound. I ran the numbers out. I ran of all of it. And that extra amount of weight statistically would mean about 8 days of my life. 3 hours of decision led to 8 days of my life. Okay. And I want you to start thinking in those terms. What could you do with that extra days? I'm like, Angie's mom's not with us. My mom and dad aren't with us anymore. They passed on. But what would I do to have an extra 8 days with my mom and dad? What would she do to have an extra 8 days with her mom, with those you love? And that's going to be you to somebody one day. So think about it from that side, because I hate to use the frame, know your why. Angie and I were talking about this morning as we were doing a video this morning on our walk by the beach. It's so cliche sounding in a way, but at the end of the day, knowing the reason you're doing something is really the most important factor in being able to sustain weight loss. It really is. It's like people who come to us and they're going to a college reunion or high school reunion, and they want to lose weight for that, or they want to lose. Like we have one of our clients that dropped 50 pounds so she could get into the phrase I use, get into the wedding dress of her dreams, so she walked down the aisle with the man of her dreams, and she did that. those were those reasons. But you've got to have continual leverage on yourself over time. And this is one thing we teach our clients. The leverage on me is that, I obviously married above my pay grade with Angie. Hey, some guy's coming along and going to marry her if I'm dead because I couldn't put the stinking fork down. That's just the truth. And so somebody's going to be the father to my daughter, the father to my 3 sons. Somebody's going to be doing what God called me to do. I mean, that's leverage. You've got to get leverage at some level on yourself. And the reason you do this is much more important than whether you're eating broccoli or whether you're eating cupcakes. Okay. I'm not saying food doesn't matter. It does, but that I promise you, it's the 2%. For the people that are on weight loss drugs right now. And again, we have no problem with that. You've got to master this stuff. You've got to master it. If you don't master this, when you come off the drug, the weight's coming back on. We've seen it. We
over and over.
Oh, we see it over and over. I mean, we talk to a lot of people that have struggled. And when you soften this stuff too, I mean, I softened for so many years. I made it okay to be 250. Then I made it okay to be 260, then 270, 280, 290. If I had weighed 299.999 pounds on March 2nd, 2017, I would probably be dead right now because I wouldn't have done anything about it. Okay. 300 was my trigger. 304, boom. I didn't weigh every day back then. But at the end of the day, these are the tools you have to have along the way. And you got to have data. I mean, we weigh every day. We know exactly what's going into our body. And people say, well, that's a lot of trouble. Well, so is dying. That's a
lot of trouble for your family that you've left behind mourning you and possibly paying your debt or possibly just dealing with their pain alone.
I always get cracked up that, and one of the things we say when we bring somebody into we have an elite coaching program that we're very selective. Angie does most of those calls. It's typically about half the people that book a call with us get an offer into our program. And it's, at the end of the day, the thing that we say, it's just like I said to Rick Sponholz on July 21st, 2021. Rick was 353 pounds. He lost a little bit of weight down from 388. And he was 5'10", 353 pounds, heart attack survivor, walk with a walker, fused vertebrae, exercise impossible, and never could get a handle on it. And I was positive. I said, if you do the work, I'm 100% confident we can get you to your ideal weight. I didn't tell him when. I didn't tell him what to eat. I said, if you do the work. Okay. Now the work is the stuff, the mindset things. And Rick leaned into that probably as much as anybody we've ever had do it. But it took Rick longer. I never said when because I knew it was going to be harder for him. Just like ladies who come to us, they have a lot of hormonal issues and different things. It's going to take you longer. It just is. It doesn't mean it's not possible, but it's so interesting for Rick. Rick's target at that time was 190. He changed it to 188 because he wanted to be down 200 total from his high weight that he was at. But Rick is in the 190s as of yesterday. And what's interesting is he did the work. It took him 1,620 something days to get to the 190 that was his dream weight at that time. But he did the work. The work is the mindset thing and the identity shifts and all the things that have to take place along the way.
And when people say, well, that's just too long, I never would have taken 4 years or allowed myself to take 4 years to do the work. All those years, you mean it took that long? But what was his alternative? Had he stayed where he was?
True that.
As he tells us very often, he will, be so grateful that he ran it, stumbled upon rethink dieting so he could get out of this death sentence. I mean, he's repeatedly said he knows he would be staring at, I believe it's dandelion roots is how he phrases it.
In the grave.
Because he would be in a grave. And it gives me a chill because with all those health issues, yes. I mean, and his age and everything going against him health-wise, like Alan says, we don't know what God's timetable is, but he it was not looking good for this
No,
gentleman.
Rick was a unicorn. I mean, he was a walking dead man, and he knew it. And the point I say, could it, well, Rick lost, basically right at 200 pounds, took him 4 years. Mm-hmm. But if walks with a walker, fused vertebrae. I mean, he can't. He's just now figuring out how to do some exercises for mobility issues and different things he's got. But the point is, there's always a way. And so most people, it's way faster. But I say it because it's interesting. But the other thing too that gets you through all this, it gets through the holidays, is the identity shift. I mean, you don't want to overcome these urges by fighting harder. I mean, you don't. How's that working for you? Is my question to people. I mean, so many people that we talk to, they say, well, I could do this myself. Well, sure. And I'm rooting for you too, but how's that working for you so far? One of the questions I ask, that Angie and I both ask people, and this is just math. Math doesn't lie. Let's say, for me, 304 pounds is where I peaked. If I was asking me at 304 pounds, when was the last time you weighed 175 pounds? And I would have said over 35 years ago. I mean, over 35 years ago, I weighed that much. So that meant, regardless of how much I gained each year, on average, I gained that 129 pounds over 35 years. So divided by 35, it's just math. That's all it is. And until you get there, the fact that I weighed 220 part of the time makes no difference. That's how long it's been. So it wasn't working. And so I had to become somebody and Angie had to become somebody that decided differently, drew the line in the sand. And it was a decision. A decision means cut off all other possibilities. And that's what we do with our clients. And I mean, our clients don't post, on the whole world or anything. They're very accountable. We have an accountability system we use, but we're doing this live in front of people because I think some people really don't believe it works. And I'm just like, it positively works. And they say, well, why did you gain yours weight back? Because I'm human too. We're human too. And at the end of the day, I stopped. It's my favorite saying is, it works so well, we stopped applying it ourselves. And we're no different than you. I say to people who come to us, well, why would I? And I'm not asking you all to hire us as a coach, but I'm just, these are the voices that go off in my head. Well, why would somebody hire you as a coach? Because you failed at it. Because I know what failure feels like, and I know what coming out of it feels like. And so if you're looking for perfect people, Angie and I are not. Well, Angie's closer than I am. You're pretty close. Yeah, right. You're pretty close. Okay. So, but it's, but people will tell us they're not stress eater. I'm someone who doesn't numb stress with food. Yeah, I've tested this. I've done an unscientific study, and only 100% of the people we've ever talked to or worked with are emotional eaters. They all are at some level.
And everybody comes back around and says, okay, I guess, I really am. They just don't recognize it themselves.
But your behavior is tied to your identity. It's, if you become, for example, think of people in different situations. Their behavior is tied to their identity. It's like we had a neighbor in West Columbia, South Carolina, that always won award-winning
state fair sweets with the bakery. We
didn't mean to make this about food, but she was very thin, very fit lady. But she always won that. That was her identity. She's just somebody, and you knew. If you went to her house for a party, she was always gracious to our whole family. They invited us for every party. It was like everything was amazing because that was her identity. If your identity is being a great parent, you do everything you can to be the great parent. If your identity is to be, and this is where we get in a struggle. A lot of people really is they soften the fact that they've gained the 5 pounds, the 10 pounds. I had, I've just seen it over and over where people make it okay to be morbidly obese. Okay, think about this. They say, well, I'm just big bone. No, you're really not. When you were at your ideal weight, you had the same bone structure you have today. Maybe you've changed a little bit over 20 years, but you didn't all of a sudden have gargantuan bones.
And I've heard many times, well, I've had 2, it was after I had the 2 children. Or 3 children. Well, we had 4, and I
delivered. Oh no, I didn't.
I delivered 4 children, and I was, And in fact, I was back to my 125 right after having, except the last one. The last one, I let life busyness, and I did not take care of myself.
Yeah, I mean, 188. Well, your baby weight only lasted 15 years, and so, but we made it okay to be fat. We made it okay to be fat. We made it okay to be, she didn't hit obesity, but I made it okay to be morbidly obese.
But I knew I wasn't my best. I wasn't certainly the best example for my daughter. I mean, people wouldn't have called me fat because I was around so many people that were larger than me.
Yeah, that's
an easy way to make yourself feel better.
Sure, be around somebody bigger than you. That's spot on, and we can go on that for an hour. But why this works through the holidays? I want you to think without special foods, without insane exercise. I mean, we're walking. We do walking. We do biking. That's what we do. We don't. I use the word gym rat. No shame to anybody in the gym. Hey, I applaud you if you're in the gym, but I want to do things that I like. We like walking.
We can do it if we're traveling.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're somewhere else, there's usually a beautiful park or path or at a hotel or wherever you can find a place to do those things.
We're not doing the exercise to drop the extra weight. It aids in it, but the main thing is people tell me I can't exercise. They can still lose weight. I mean, but it's no perfection. It's just decisions and accountability and truth. I mean, and so, holidays expose, the broken systems because we start, if somebody's told you can only eat this one way, it just exposes it. But with the decision making, the identity shift, that you make through the process, understanding why you're doing this is so much more powerful than any meal plan you'll ever have, because you can look around and even if you make a decision, we teach our clients to calculate everything. We want them to do it. One of the things we've noticed is just consciousness, just being conscious of what they're eating. They get, it's almost like easy weight loss, because they were like, oh my gosh, and the price, and they realize the price they're paying. So many people that we work with are Dave Ramsey fans, which I don't know Dave Ramsey personally, but great stuff, awesome, and they're against debt. They're against debt. And I get that. That's me too. I mean, I don't think it's a sin, but I don't think it's a blessing. But it's so interesting. They don't look at the extra 50 pounds as debt. And just like that ROI, that return on investment I was talking about, when debt is defined to me, and I actually heard Dave Ramsey he says debt is trading a present desire for your future. I think it's the way you said that. So you're trading your future for something you want now. Okay. And with money, it is, I'm trading future work. I'm going to have interest payment on it for that new shiny object that I want right now. Okay. So that's debt. That's what it is. Also, the definition of maturity that we use with our kids is being able to wait. Think about it. When a newborn is born, they wait for nothing. They cry when they're hungry. They cry when they're uncomfortable. They cry when they need their diaper changed, and we jump at it. As they get older, maturity is when they can wait. Okay? Think about it with food. Maturity is when you can wait till you actually need it. If you're gaining weight, you don't need it. Your body, you got fat on you right now, extra weight that you carry. My energy is spiking right now big time because it's burning some extra pounds. It's sufficiently burning it. And so, but at the end of the day, that trading, we eat something now and we're trading our life for the future. I mean, I've said this to people before that have said, about the debt. So I don't do debt. I said, well, listen, Bob or whoever, I'm just throwing a name out, Jim or Sally, I can appreciate that you don't do financial debt, but you've done debt with your body to the point that you've likely given up 5, 10, 15, 20 years of your life. For women, and I saw this a lot in the insurance world when Angie and I both worked in the senior market, dealing with people over 65. Women live longer, but women who are morbidly obese have a zillion medical conditions that make their life
quality that you want to enjoy, that you're enjoying your life.
Living hell is what it is. Men just die. Okay, and I mean that's it. So I want you to understand that that having all this knowledge as we go through it. And I know I've jumped around a bunch, but I just want to speak to your heart as we talk about this. Why you don't have to have massive willpower. You have to have decision power. You have to have accountability. I mean, people to be accountable to. You have to have a different identity. You have to know why you're doing this. And we're showing you in real time how it works. Is it frustrating to us that we're not dropping 40 pounds in 3 days? Heck yeah, I want it now. I want to. Well, Angie allegedly drives over the speed limit sometimes, but I've never seen that to be true. So anyway, she likes getting there fast. I mean, and all. So I want you guys to really think this through. Think it through. Understand you have the power to change. Understand that. Understand that it's not as complex as you think. But I tell people all the time, weight loss is a team sport. Weight loss team. How has it worked by yourself? How has it worked all alone? How has it worked? We hear it all the time that people blame their spouses on their weight. And I'll ask you, does your spouse struggle with morbid obesity? Or are they a normal weight? No, my spouse is overweight. She or he weighs 10 pounds too much. And I'm talking the individual weighs 150 pounds too much. Okay, by their definition, not by my definition. And I'm like, okay. And they blame their spouse. They blame the thing. Stop blaming it. Take responsibility. And guys, if you want to have a further conversation, Angie and I, we do this. We won't be as available through the holidays as we've got family coming in from out of the country, from out of state, all over right now. But we want you to, if you want to get on a call with us, we do something called a breakthrough call. Now, what a breakthrough call is, it's where Angie and I get on the line with you. Sometimes it's both of us, sometimes it's just one of us, and we walk through how bad your problem is with weight. Okay, and if you don't have a problem with it, if it's not bothering you, don't book the call. But if it's bothering you and you really want to change, book these calls. So how bad your problem is with weight, how committed you are to solving that problem. How great would it be at your ideal weight? How much different would it be? And whether we think we can help. And then we walk through kind of our process and give you a sample of what it's like to work with us. Sometimes that's all people need, is just that little adjustment. And it's not the amount of pounds, but sometimes people want to work with us further. And that's the way to book a call is transformmyfuture.com/apply. transformmyfuture.com/apply. Book a call with us. Listen, you can lose weight through the holidays. You can lose weight for anything. But at the end of the day, take action on it. If it's bothering you enough to do that, it's really bothering you, do something about it. Book that call with us, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if we can do it, you can do it. And the waiting till after the holidays, think of if you can even just check yourself and keep a balance now without going into the new year with the normal 5 or 10 pound weight gain that most people have.
100%. All right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year, and God bless.